you might have a field that covers thousands of acres, and the original development plan was to drill a well every 200 acres. Well, you've got 30 wells there and 30 to go. And for whatever reason, maybe a crash in the market or whatever, the remaining locations didn't get drilled. So what we do is we try to find opportunities on two different levels. One's going to be either distressed sellers or distressed assets that need capital infusion. The other one's going to be starting from square one. Um, and
And
that's
what are assets exactly?
that'd be producing wells, cash flow generating, producing wells,
Got it.
or leases that have the potential to produce. So more on the producing field side. So you might buy a field that's been producing for, I don't know, some of them 2 or 3 years, some of them 20, 30 years, and you're looking for ways to improve that production or drill additional wells, where they haven't, or where they have locations left. So you might have a field that covers thousands of acres, and the original development plan was to drill a well every 200 acres. Well, you've got 30 wells there and 30 to go, and for whatever reason, maybe a crash in the market or whatever, the remaining locations didn't get drilled. So we see that as a great opportunity, because you're not paying for those extra locations that have that great upside. You're just paying for what's there. So you're actually kind of getting those locations for free, and there lies your upside.
So, all right. So you get similar this, and guys, there's so many similarities to our business as this, but essentially you're finding, these distressed assets, and then you're capitalizing on it. Similar to what we do. We find apartment complexes that are underperforming. We make an offer on it, or in some cases develop a building on a piece of land after purchasing it. And then we implement our business plan to make it more valuable. And so it sounds like you're doing similar things. What would cause an oil asset to become distressed?
Usually it's going to be like a change of ownership. And so many of these assets are handed down. And the children may or may not follow in the parents' footsteps, but they're dumped in their lap. Those are the distressed situations that I really like. They don't have the expertise. They weren't kind of there. So what ends up happening is they try to keep the farm going, and they don't do so well with it. So they wind up contracting help. The help sees a good opportunity to make a lot of money and do as little as possible. And the story never changes, just the names. But let's call it 2 sons and a daughter inherit an oil field. That oil field's making 150 barrels a day when they get it. 6 months into it, it's down to 70. They're spending every dollar they have trying to get it to go back up, and therefore they bleed themselves out, and they're going, okay, well, what can we get for this thing? So we come in, we make an offer, we get it, like within a matter of weeks, we get it right back to where it was, and then it start our improvement. Because it's just such minor changes, but I don't know. I've got a lot of goodwill, but not enough to kind of do it for them and hand it back and pay it premium.
There's not like a loop net or like CoStar or something.
There is. But then you're going to be paying 4 or 5 years net cash flow multiple on things. When if you just really get in the trenches and seek out these opportunities, you're paying 2 to 3 years multiple on something that's underperforming.
Right.
You want to pay 4 or 5 years for something that can't be improved on, or 2 to 3 years that's running at 30 to 50% of its potential.
So so it sounds like you guys are hunting for off-market oil deals most of the time.
Correct.
Do you have like a whole setup or team that just calls these people, or how do you find them?
In a way, I guess, we do all of our own work. So we're always out in the field with various specialty vendors. So, we contract the equipment, we contract the labor, but it's our engineers. They're turning the wrenches. We're telling them how far to turn, but they're also doing this for other people. So you kind of just hear through the grapevine. We've tried just doing mailers, calling, working with advisors, and you get the same result, overpriced stuff that has very little upside. Some of the best deals comes from, hey, you're just out checking on your well, because what I do is I go across all 5 states that we have wells in once a month, and you'll be out there with the field foreman, and somebody will drive by and say, hey, we got the stuff across the street. We've got X, Y, and Z going on with it, and we just really don't know how to fix it. We've kind of given up. So if since we figured you might be interested because you're right next door, and you're sitting there going, well, let me think about it. But in your mind, you're going, thank God. I don't know what I did. I don't know what I did this week to deserve that good fortune. But yes, I'm very interested.
Yeah, but that seems like you're kind of just kind of like finding $1 at a gas station on the ground or something. I mean, like,
That's the best way to find those
really.
dollars.
So all right,
Yeah.
so you go check on your own wells, and someone approaches you and they're like, hey, I got this field, I'm not running very well.
Man, yes.
That's literally it, huh?
Yeah, because I mean, you said LoopNet. Just get on energynet.com right now, look at some of those prices. And if it's under a 4 or 5 year cash flow multiple, it's going to say reserve not met. You're going to get in there and they're going to try to talk you into buying it for the reserve or higher.
So they got a broker involved, and the broker is like trying to drive the price up and all that. So they get a bigger commission.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just not how money is made. But hey, you could get on there right now. You could find there's a bunch of different oil and gas management companies. Pay them $1,000 per well, and you can do this without me. But if you want to find the deals and see your money back in a year or two, you gotta get in the trenches. That's where they hide.
So you guys kind of self-manage everything as well, right? So you're vertically integrated, but are there also there's management companies that just do this for a fee versus owning it?
Yeah, they do it. They do it for a fee. But the fee, I guess, is cheap on one hand. It's interest out of line on the other. So, with me, my interest is your interest. If I win, you win, I win, kind of thing. So, where they're charging $1,000 a well, that could sound really cheap if it's a high volume well. That could sound really expensive if it's a low volume well. But then anything beyond just sending you the reports of what it's doing is additional money. So when you add it all up, we're probably a lot cheaper and have your best interest in mind.
Man, this is crazy how much it's similar to our industry, which is cool. So like same thing, you can self-manage your assets, your stuff's aligned, you have full integration. I mean, the challenge is the HR side. Now you have to take on all the accounting, all the HR, but it gives you the control that you may want at the time. Now I've done it both ways. We're choosing now to do a third party because we have a pretty strong third party management company, and it makes more sense than us to put the infrastructure in place at this level. We just don't really care to deal with that, the other side. But I can see how it would be favorable to have that kind of situation. And would you say most people do that on your side, or would you say it's the opposite?
It's a healthy blend of both.
Yeah.
I mean, with negative interest rates in Europe, there's so much European money in the American oil and gas space. They usually get these contract operators. And they're usually the ones buying this overpriced stuff on the internet that keeps the prices so high. But other than that, I'd say it's more geared towards what we're doing. Every now and then you'll have a professional of a different industry, whether it be a doctor, lawyer, dentist, baseball player, whatever, that just want to own an oil well, then they'll do it. But for the most part, they're going to manage it themselves. And some of our accounting gets outsourced. Since here's the only thing that's different about oil and gas is we have royalty owners. So with my land background, what I would do is I'd go talk to these farmers and try to secure a lease from them, and you pay them a bonus per acre, and then you pay them a royalty rate out of whatever based on whatever comes out of the ground. What's great when it's just one farmer, but if that farm's been in a family for 10 generations and each generation had 10 kids, you've got thousands of owners. I've got one field in East Texas with 6,000 owners. Now that I outsource. don't outsource all the billing and stuff like that. I think it keeps me
A lot of
disciplined.
K1s, man.
Uh, yeah, well, 1099s on the revenue.
Oh, okay.
If it was K1s, I'd probably have more gray hairs and receding hairline and stuff like that. But no, I do all the revenue and all the expenses myself. It kind of keeps me disciplined because if I'm writing those checks going out for the various expenses, then I'm also going, okay, where are the holes? What can we cut back on? You know, where can we save? We've done a great job just cutting out expenses. They're kind of another big source of capital is hedge funds and private equity groups and stuff like that. And they'll find a guy like me and pluck me out of my own little thing and say, hey, instead of managing $50 million worth of assets, come manage 300. And we're going to pay you a salary and you're going to get some equity and yada, yada, yada. Okay, cool. Then he outsources everything. And then those costs are way up here, you know, and then they'll ride that cash flow for 5 or 10 years. Then a guy like me will come and buy it. And then, okay, well, I don't need this. I don't need that. I don't need this. And heck, we save a fortune. So there's a bunch of ways of skinning cats, but there's a few tried and true ones. And that's finding these children of oil men that, you know, have a little bit of difficulty keeping it going like dad did. And then also these funds that have these 5 and 10 year exit strategies. And then you just walk in and there's nothing wrong. They're performing the way they're supposed to. There might be a little bit more limitation on the upside because they do a lot better than these inherited assets. But there's great upside in cutting expenses out and just a lot of fat that nobody really minded before.